Okay, so here's the whatever you want to call it, the result of all that coding, whether it's going to work or not. So, as I was saying before, if we equip a dagger, our strength should go up to 15, and our dagger's quantity should go down to 3. So let's give it a go. All good so far. Our weapon slot, we've now filled it with 4, because that's the ID of the weapon that we're currently got equipped. The dagger's quantity has gone down to 3, as it should have done, and our strength has gone up to 15. Again, with the thin armouring, our defence should go up to 15, and the thin armouring should be removed, and our armour slot updated. So, all looking good. Now, if we now equip our longsword, our dagger quantity should go back up to 4, and our strength should increase by 5 points. Now I say 5 because the 3 from the dagger should be removed, so we should end up with a strength of 20 as opposed to a strength of 23. Yeah, and longsword quantity should go down to 3 and dagger back up to 4, and the weapon slot should change. Just make sure that the player equipment, we should only have 1 row, because obviously our user ID shouldn't have duplicated, because we put in that parameter of on duplicate. We just update. I'll make sure we're updating the right. See, we almost lost this one, didn't we? We need to change it to weapon. Anyway, back over to this. We should only have 1 row, and there we have it. Here it contains our weapon slot and our arm slot. Back over to here, what we'll do is we will equip our longsword, and we'll equip our we'll just equip our longsword for a moment, hoping those original changes happen. So our dagger's gone back up to quantity of 4, our longsword has gone down to a quantity of 3, with our strength being boosted up to 20 as predicted. So all is good. And with the steel armour, if you remember, our thin armouring was lost because we only had 1 in its quantity. We should gain back that thin armour, and the quantity of the steel armour will go down to 4, with our defence being boosted up to 20. And I knew something would go wrong. Okay, let's have a look at what's happening. Okay, the problem is that here on this line I've actually got a double $sign, which I'm hoping is the problem. So if we remove that and come back over to here, there we go. So our our defence has gone up to 20. We haven't actually lost our steel armour, but we've gained our thin armouring. I can't remember if we had 6 to begin with or not. So if we equip our thin armouring again, let's see if everything reverts back as it should do. There we go. Yeah, our defence has gone back down to 15. Our steel armour has gone up to 6. and we can swap them around again. Okay, so the final two parts is that we need to replace where we have the item ID here against the armor slot and the weapon slot. We need to replace them with the actual names. Excuse me. And we also need to look at removal of the items. So we can come back over to our editor here, and we'll come back down to where we're selecting everything from the player equipment table. So I'm going to adjust this query, and I'll get it to output the actual item names according to what the item ID is. Okay, so after a lot of faffing about, I managed to generate the query that is needed to get all the correct information for the armor slot and weapon slot to display the item names within them. So we have a look at the query itself. What we're doing is we're getting the armor slot and the weapon slot ID numbers, the ID numbers contained within them, and we're also using left joins to create temporary tables, because we're querying the same database, the same table twice, to gain information against the two different items. So the first, excuse me, the first one is I've created a temporary table called armors, and what we're doing there is we're getting the game's item ID and the game item's item name from the game items table, and we're calling the temporary table armors, and we're joining it on a player equipment armor slot ID value to the armors ID. Excuse me. And this is, we're grabbing that ID, the armors ID, from the game items ID, and we're giving it an alias of ID. And we're doing the same thing for the weapon, the temporary table's name of weapons, to get the weapons name, and we're joining on the weapon slot ID and the weapons ID. And that gives us our values up here, to give us the armor name and the weapon name. So coming back down here, where we're either calling it up as nothing or we're calling it up as the armor name for the armor slot or the weapon name for the weapon slot, and we're continuing to echo out the armor and weapon slot there. So back over to the game, just to demonstrate, we're currently we've got on our weapon slot a dagger, and we can change that to a long sword and it all looks fine. Again, with steel armor and the thin armoring, we change that over and it all changes, and we gain back our thin armoring. Okay, the only other part we need to do now is to remove the items. So what we can do is we can come down to where it says here the armor slot, and we will just put in a little if condition, which echoes out the remove action for the item, so we can remove the item. Okay, so what we've got here is we're echoing out next to the armor slot and the weapon slot. We're echoing if Again, or if the armor slot doesn't equals null or equals 0, then we're echoing out nothing. Else we're echoing out the link which holds the action of remove and the ID of the equipment armor slot or the equipment weapon slot, and this produces this result. And we've got the two removes here. So now we're going to come back up the top here, and as you can see, what we've got at the moment is that if an action is set, then it doesn't matter what the action is, it will still equip an item. So what we need to do is we need to break this up. We need to put against that if the action is equip, then we want to make the item equip to the player, and if it's remove, then we want to remove the item. So I will do that, and we're coming close to the end of our time limit here, so we'll finish the rest of this part off on the next video.